Steph's having an average of 22 so far this season. It's his worst scoring, by the way, since his third year in the league. You know what? Let's start with, is it panic time? Because I've heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, let's go trade. We gotta maximize Steph. We owe him to do it. What it's going to take to be contenders." But is there anything there, Chandler, to put together and be a contender?
I mean, to me, they're in the same boat as the Los Angeles Lakers. They have to be perfect. They have to be elite. They have to be healthy, and they haven't. And they got off to a great start, and they do have enough talent to win a lot of games. Right? We know how deep they are. Buddy Hield started off unbelievable. Andrew Wiggins has had a solid year. Kuminga's kind of shown that he's possibly next in line to kind of be that number one option, but right now they don't have a real number two option, and they don't have that guy, that Jimmy Butler, that Zach LaVine. They don't have that piece to kind of Batman to Steph Curry's Robin. Yeah, it can be Andrew Wiggins some night, and he's been great, and Kuminga is on the rise. It's not Buddy Hield, it's not Podzimski, it's not Draymond offensively. So they just feel like they're missing a piece to really be a contender. And they're the Warriors, and they're Steph Curry, and when they're healthy and they're deep, they're going to win games and kind of put themselves right in the position that they are. That's middle of the pack. That's a dangerous team that can go off and they can hit a lot of threes. They can hurt you with 10, 11, 12 deep. They can defend with Draymond Green doing Draymond Green type things. But to me, they're a piece away. And it's we talk about the Nuggets maximizing Jokic and the Mavs maximizing, Luka. They have to me, bring in someone else to kind of put them over the edge. It's a good start with Schroeder. I think he kind of helps them with the little attacking on offense, pushing the pace, getting out in transition, opening up the floor more for these shooters to shoot. But to me, they're kind of right there with the Lakers, a little bit better than the Clippers, where they're middle of the pack. And it's probably not a team you want to face in the first round of the playoffs if you're one of those, 1 through 4 seeds. But it's probably what's going to happen, because I don't see them kind of making that leap right now this season without making a major move.
Lou, I have a tough one for you because it feels almost blasphemous to say anything negative really about Steph Curry and All-Star. But if he wasn't Steph Curry, and he's going to be voted in, would he be an All-Star on merit alone this season?
I would say yes. He's averaging 22, 5, and 6. For anybody else, you'll make a case that that's an All-Star season, right? And he set the bar so high that you feel like those numbers are low when it comes to Steph Curry in the way that he's playing. But 22, 5, and 6 gets a lot of guys in the All-Star game. Obviously, he'll be voted in by the fans, but if not, he definitely gets that nod from the coaches. Like I said, some of these guys are grandfathered in. If they're even in the conversation, if they're even sniffing those numbers or even close to that conversation, they get in without a doubt. And Steph Curry is going to be one of those guys. Look, he's been one of the anchors of All-Star Weekend. He's been one of the reasons people are still tuned in and engaged, being as though how they've been able to add the women inside of the 3-point contest with that new wrinkle. That's been one of the bright spots of All-Star Weekend. I think that only makes sense if he's an All-Star, and I really don't know what to say. This is my first time ever seeing Steph kind of have these struggles. He's going on like a 10-year straight run of just playing dominant, great basketball. And this has been the first time that he's looked human, that he looks like he can be guarded, with only 10 points last night on 2 of 13 shooting. You like your chances when you play the Golden State Warriors, but as far as his All-Star chances go, if he's even in the conversation, he still gets in.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talk about LeBron and Father Time, and this is kind of the first time we've touched on Steph Curry Father Time. But if you look at the Western Conference, the guards, he's going to get in. He's Steph Curry. But, I mean, SGA is going to start. Ja, if he plays enough games. Luka and Kyrie having better or similar stats on a better team. James Harden, to me, is the one. James Harden deserves to be an All-Star this year. Him and Norman Powell are absolutely balling. And they currently have a better record than the Warriors. So, again, is it statistics? Is it resume? Is it clout that the player has? Steph Curry, in my eyes, will always be an All-Star. Like, those are All-Star numbers on a really good winning team. Problem is their team's not a really good winning team right now, so these numbers don't look as good as they would if they were a top 4 seed. And we're so used to Steph averaging close to 30 that when we see 21.8, it is kind of weird. But if you see, and his field goal percentage is a little low too. He's obviously going to make 40, 45, 50% of his threes, but he's still going to get in, I think, and I think he deserves to be in. But there are some guards ahead of him that have a case. The guys like Norman Powell, guys like James Harden, the two guards on the Mavs I mentioned. There's a lot of other. Jalen Green on the Houston Rockets probably deserves to be an All-Star on a 20-9 number 2 seed Houston Rocket team. So it could be interesting, but I do think he gets in.
A lot of basketball to
It's
be played,
crazy.
though. A ton of basketball to be played, and as bad as it feels, as bad as the rut that they're in, they're still an 8 seed. They're 2 games over 500. They can play. They can possibly get themselves in a position where they're 5 or 6, and this is a no-brainer. But even at 8, I still feel like Steph Curry gets in.
And we're full on in voting mode right now. So yeah, I'm sure. So but it's weird. It's weird to have this conversation. I'm not going to lie. Before this one, Steve Kerr talked about Kuminga a little bit, said his decision-making in the last 2 games has been poor. He did, by the way, have 26 points last night. He also did have a cryptic IG post on Saturday that was a bit of a trade rumor fueling moment. I feel like we've talked about Kuminga and a possible trade since he's been there. But would it be better, Lou, since we have talked about it over and over again, and it feels like deja vu with him, is it better to just trade him, even though he looks like he should be a future pillar?
No, it's okay for him to be criticized by his coach, and it's okay for him to feel how he feels about it and use his personal platform to speak out. You know, this is okay. We've had as long as the NBA has been in business, you've had players on the upswing. You've had all-stars. You've had guys trying to figure it out, have problems with their coaches. You know, I won't liken this to say that they have a beef or anything, but this is regular basketball stuff to me. I think we've just gotten into this age where soon as a guy's getting criticized by his coach, or his coach is saying something that's not kissing his ass, that there's a problem. No, it's okay for these guys to be coached. And it's okay for Steve Kerr to say his decision making has been poor. That's not a personal knock on Jonathan Kuminga. That is a basketball critique. And with that, Steve Kerr is within his rights to say these things. And Jonathan Kuminga is a young guy. He can be emotional about it, and he can post on his Instagram, and I'm sure he'll get called in the office and they'll have a conversation and pretend like there's nothing happening. This is all basketball stuff. So I'm cool with it. I don't think you trade him at this point because, like I said, you've invested so much in trying to develop this young talent. And where do you go from here? You know, you still have a lot of questions unanswered. Whether Steph Curry, what's going to happen with Draymond Green? You're going to build around those 2 guys, and you have a pretty good building block right here in Jonathan Kuminga. So you don't overreact to him just constantly being coached and challenged. I think this is in the parameters of playing professional sports. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, you can't trade him unless you're going to get someone right now that can help this team win a championship right now, which I don't know who's available that could possibly do that. So I think Jonathan Kuminga kind of gives them that comfortability, that luxury of knowing, okay, when Steph and Draymond are done playing basketball, which is going to happen, you know, in the next 2 to 3 to 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, at least you know you have this kind of budding star who's in the system, who we drafted, who's been with us since day one, who's kind of our next guy up. And this, like Lou said, this is normal. This dude has gone from a role player, a raw athletic talent, to now possibly getting the keys handed over to him to being second fiddle to Steph Curry. He's going to have ups and downs. He's going to struggle. He's not one of these playmaking, finesse, crazy skilled player yet. He is a raw, talented freak athlete that can get downhill, that can play above the rim. He's got to work on his shooting. He's got to become a more consistent shooter, but he reminds me more of like a Giannis, where he's just so physical and so strong that he's going to make mistakes. He's going to turn the ball over. He's going to take bad shots. It's part of his process. It's part of his growth. So I think this is completely normal. It's just something that we got to get used to with guys on social media and their own platforms and their own podcasts. They're going to always say stuff like this that are going to drive coaches and organizations nuts.
I love me a cryptic post. Just makes the mind wander, doesn't it?